Welcome to the G Women Voices of Influence series, where we spotlight women whose work, voice, and impact are shaping the future. My name is Alex Okoroji. I'm your host, and today we're celebrating an incredible voice, Nydia Monarrez. Now, Nydia Monarrez is an award-winning Spanish voice actor, director, author, and Hispanic market consultant. Originally from Monterrey, Mexico, Nydia has worked with major brands including Disney, McDonald's, Toyota, Marriott, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now, she is the author of The Ultimate Guide to Successfully Targeting the U.S. Hispanic Market and the co-host of the podcast For Real, an unscripted podcast produced by the Gulf Coast Latin Chamber of Commerce. Now, thank you for joining me here on Voices of Influence, Nydia.
Hi, Alex. Thank you for having me. Super happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to join us here. So, you know what, Nydia, let's talk a little bit. Let's start with your origin moment, right? We are always curious to know what inspired you to begin the work that you do, the work that you're doing today.
Sure, that's a great question. And like the short answer is to be true to myself. I have a degree in communications and public relations. So talking and like in front of an audience and behind a microphone was always a passion of mine. However, my specialty was in organizational development and PR. So I had a corporate background. And it was great. I had a nice career. I, escalated corporate ladder a little bit here and there. I started as an executive and then a supervisor and then I'm corporate manager. And it was nice. I did learn a lot. I used to work for a financial company, actually. And with, having relationship with corporate clients and all that. It was pretty cool. All that back in Mexico, right? In 2009, our sister financial company in the US started a Latin American recruitment to recruit some executive to work on an initiative to reach the Latino market in the USA. So long story short, I was one of the lucky ones who was recruited to run this Hispanic initiative in corporate America. So I was relocated with my husband and my kids and my pets to Tampa Bay area. And it was very cool. It was a very nice experience to be working for corporate America. But after 2 years, the company went to an IPO, an initial public offer, and the whole multicultural team and hundreds of people got laid off. Wow. It was very shocking, very unexpected. You don't expect to get laid off after an international moving behind. Right. But it was what it was. So I got laid off. It was a process, it took me to realize okay, I'm no longer with this company, but I'm here in the US. I enjoy corporate America, but I didn't got fascinated about it. So I got to the point where I said, okay, whatever I'm going to do now is because I really want to have fun and enjoy it and not having all that stress that sometimes demands a corporate job. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So after a few months of introspection, I connected to my little girl inside and I said, okay, Nydia, what is what you always wanted to do? And I always wanted to act. So acting and things like that was very, very always in the deep of my heart, and I really enjoy doing little plays here and there during the school. So I said, okay, this is it. I'm gonna start acting. I'm gonna start to study. I'm gonna start to take acting classes and all that. And that's how I started my journey with the voiceover. I started to take acting classes, and I started to do little things here and there, like on camera work. And when I was taking acting classes, I met one of my colleagues, a classmate, introduced me to the voiceover world. And the beauty of the voiceover is that instead of driving an hour to go to a 5-minute casting and then driving another hour to get a call back and dressing the part and all that, the voiceover is something that you can do remotely. So I started to learn more about the voiceover industry and how you can start, of course, also developing acting chops and everything, but submitting your auditions online. And I just got seduced by that convenience, and that's how I started my voiceover journey, and which is basically a voice acting, just acting behind a microphone. And back to your question, how I ended up here, it was just being true to myself and to what I really wanted to do for kind of like the rest of my life, because I love what I do now.
You know what? First of all, thank you for sharing that with us. And what a big transition. And I'm just going to, share this a bit. Emmer says, this is a big transition to navigate. So here you are traveling, relocating from where you were to a new environment, and then you got laid off, and then you found your dream career, right? As a voice artist. And Emma says, as soon as Nydia says the word acted, her face lights up. So obviously you've gone from what could have seemed like a big obstacle, a challenge, right? A challenging situation, to actually finding something that truly lights your world. I mean, you're an amazing voice actor. So let's talk, just a little bit about the influencer behind the influencer, right? Because here you are using your voice to influence brands and organizations, and helping them to have some type of front-facing relationship with their customers or their audience. So who influenced you in your journey? Because I know that we've talked about the sort of the origin moments, but in this journey now as a voice actor, who would you say, or just basically even just in your life as you've been building and going through this journey, who would you say, has shaped the woman that you have become?
Well, I will need to go back to my childhood. My grandparent was a very people-oriented person, and also an entrepreneur. My mom also was always selling something from the home that I grew up, right? So that entrepreneurial spirit was always within me. I remember I used to sell candies at a school with my sister, but also during the break time, we used to do like a show. So we were like acting and dancing, and at the end, like everybody was clapping, and then we were selling candies to our audience. So I would say maybe my mom was very supportive of all of my initiatives when I was a little girl, and then growing up, as becoming a young woman. And fast forward, when I decided to get or to break into the voiceover industry and the acting industry, I need to say that my husband was also very supportive of taking this totally new path. I remember having this conversation with him, because hey honey, you know what, like after a few months, he's like, okay, are you starting to look for a job? It's like, and I'm like, yes, but you know what, I'm no longer want to go to the corporate world. I wanted to do acting and all that. And I remember he's like, again, he was very supportive, but he's like, Nydia, just tell me why is it that you want to become an actress? And I told him, honey, because just think about it, like being an actress is like, I could be a lawyer or a doctor or a homeless or a bitch, like, oh, and he's like, or a sweet mom or a sister, and he's like, you are already all those things, right? I said, oh, and I just laughed, right? But I said, okay, but I'm gonna get paid for it, right? So back to your question, I would say my grandpa, my mother, but also my husband, more recently, very supportive on my idea of tapping into this totally different industry career.
Well, that's amazing that you share that. And it's kind of wonderful to have, family members who are really supportive of our journey, and to have a husband who obviously supported this. And there's something you said about, you wanted to be, and I think that's the beauty of being an actor. And I can say this myself as well, having experienced that as an actor, you get to be everything, right? You can be anything and everything, right?
Right.
You get the chance to play multiple roles, and as a voice actor as well, there's so much power that you have in helping, like organizations and businesses and brands come alive and tell stories, whatever that is, whether that's for a company or that's even a feature voice film or animation or any of that. So I think the work that you do is amazing. So let's talk a little bit about the impact and transformation, because obviously when clients, come to you, when people come to you and say, hey, Nydia, you're our top choice to be, we would love for you to carry forward our, our brand, right? And do this commercial or this infomercial or whatever that is. What
Right.
would you say is the transformation that you create for the people that you serve?
Well, once again, I'm very like business oriented, and my clients, something that they always keep in mind when picking a voice for their brand is to connect with the market, right? To connect with the final audience. So, for instance, in the voiceover industry, there are so many genres, and I don't do all of them. I just leverage my experience. In my case, I had this financial background, corporate background, and like people reach out to me to do some corporate videos. Also, medical narrations. That's something that naturally comes to me. I don't know, like I can pronounce very complicated, long words, medical terms, relatively easy. And I guess when a client or a marketing agency is reaching out to me is because I provide that corporate tone, but also I'm very people oriented and I'm very warm while talking to people. So they are looking sometimes for that warm voice that connect, to the humans on the other side of the commercial or radio spot or whatever. But I'm also giving, kind of like the branding, the corporate presence that the client wants. So probably when someone come up to me is because they see those things through my voice and also a little bit my personality, I should say.
Well, that's a powerful combination, right? The personality, that warmth, and of course your voice, because like you said, the voiceover industry is a very broad industry, and there are different, genres, and the fact that you're able to serve the clients that you do, that's important. So I'm just going to quickly take this comment. Deborah DeLisa says, yes, her passion, I get it. And then, of course, Emma says supportive families are so important. And Swap says, it amazes me how they invariably go back to their childhood. Yes, our childhood usually is very it's responsible. That origin story always goes right back to, or the influence in our life. We always sometimes tap back to, our families, because they sort of model, right, our, model the experience that we eventually have. So
for good or for bad, right? I guess, and sometimes
that's true.
We can't deny who we are. I guess it's just on our DNA and how we grow up and the people that we interact with when growing up. So yeah, I can't deny. Yeah.
Okay. I need to share this. This is important. I think this is a question for you. So Emma says, does Nydia work in different languages? And if she does she find some easier than others?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually do mainly Spanish voiceover. So Spanish is my mother tongue, is where I feel more comfortable doing. However, sometimes when clients are looking for accented English or Latino accent, or sometimes nowadays they are even doing something that is called Spanglish, which is kind of like the Spanglish, like the funny commercials. Well, Latinos in the US are like that. We tend to mix English and Spanish. So they call it Spanglish. But back to your question, I would say 95% of my work is done totally in Spanish. And also, besides the corporate narrations, the medical narrations, telephony system is my bread and butter. Para español, presione uno. you got the idea of what I do. With the
Love it, love it. And there's a huge market, right? Because companies and organizations are trying to reach the Hispanic market. So to have a voice that is powerful as yours, to be able to sort of relate and communicate whatever that message is valuable, right? So let's talk about your signature superpower. And I know you've talked about what how you serve, the transformation that you offer companies. But let's talk about that signature superpower. And I think I can almost guess what it is, but let's talk about it. What would you say is your superpower as a voice actor?
Okay. Maybe I would say the ability to connect with people at a human level, Alex. Right? So, and that's something that you can hear to the message when I'm recording a message, to my voice, right? And this also happens not only through my voiceover work, but I would say at a personal level. Once again, I'm a people person, and I truly enjoy meeting and getting to know new people. And I don't care if you are the CEO of the company or the cleaning lady of this company. At the end of the day, we are all humans, right? And connect to people regardless of the titles or their job positions, and looking at them just as they are, as we all are, humans, with doubts, with fears, but with great potential too, with a wish to enjoy life and be happy and be connected to other people that we care and love. I think it's just very human, and I really like to do that. I enjoy just connecting with people at a human level, regardless of their titles and jobs and possessions and whatever.
That is a powerful superpower, Nydia, the ability to connect with others. I really, really, truly feel that way. And isn't that also like the power of audio? So I'm a big audio fan, right? And I can almost tell a person by listening, like, I can hear so much from an, audio. I don't know, people like video, but I'm a big audio fan. So I totally can understand what you mean. And there's something very intimate about a voice, right? Being able to close your eyes and hear and feel different emotions when you listen to. So I think you having that ability to connect with people is truly amazing. So let's talk about.
Just when I hear you, because I love audiobooks, right? And just like you, like video is great. I'm a visual person, and I love to watch here and there. But when you're listening to an audiobook, for instance, and just walking the beach and listening to an audiobook or a podcast, and just connecting to whoever is talking on the other side through their voices, it automatically transports you to another world without the distraction of that screen, if I may say. So I hear you. I'm also but sorry.
No. Here's the funny thing. I just had a thought about something. I was like, have you ever considered like doing like dubbing, like audio dubbing, like if there were like films to say, maybe an English film that needs to be translated to Spanish, and you dubbing like
Spanish.
That is
dubbing, animation, or doblaje in Spanish. That's something that's in my path to do. I started with my sweet spot where it comes easily to me: corporate, expert video, medical narration, and once again, telephony. Para español, presione uno. That's something that I really enjoy. But dubbing is in my relatively near future to explore, because again, is as everything, you need to find a way and start small and then organically growing. At least in this industry, that's how it works.
Right. No, I mean, I do understand that from a business perspective, to just stick in your lane and to do what's very comfortable. But just the human side of how you like to connect, I could really see that as a dub, a voice over.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I would love to voice a Disney movie for the Latin American version. For instance. Absolutely.
That would be amazing. Okay, so let me ask you this now. I mean, as a voice actor, as a voice artist, how important is it to amplify women's voices? I mean, with the work that we do at GWomen Media, obviously we care about the women's visibility and the power of their voice. And you having a very impactful voice, what would you say is the importance of women being able to, use their voices?
I would tell to all the women watching this program, use your voice, speak out. It's what I always tell even to my kids. Hey, when you feel that something is not right, that something is falling off, that something is not fair, speak out. Just, hey, you have a voice and you have like the duty to use it for the benefit of yourself and the people around you. So don't be afraid to use it, because that the world is kind of crazy, and there are all kind of people, and not all, unfortunately, many times everybody has their own agendas, right?
Mm-hmm.
They tell you something, but there is an agenda behind to
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And listen to your gut, to your listen to your gut. And if you think that something is not feeling right, please use your voice to address that. Just speak out. It doesn't have to be very loud like me. Maybe because I'm very opinionated. I'm always, I like, yes, it's just me. And I get it. Not always everybody has maybe the personality or the character, but you, even in a soft, sweet way, you can still use your voice and speak out. And yeah, I lost the word, but anyway, just, you're doing a disservice if you're not, like talking on your behalf to
Right.
take care of you. So just
Yeah.
speak out and use your voice to
And
avoid
advocate for yourself.
fairness and things that sometimes are in the world out there.
I love that you said you have a duty, right? And honestly, you said that you have a duty to use your voice and to advocate for yourself. And
Exactly.
we don't always.
Advocate. That was the word.
That was the word you were looking for.
And that if you only use your voice to advocate for yourself, you're doing a great job.
Yes, you are doing a great job. And thank you for sharing that, because, everyone thinks that to use your voice means you need to be loud and aggressive and bubbly or whatever it is. Sometimes it's just in a calm way, standing firm for yourself and for what you believe and for your choices. And we have to encourage each other. So as we, I was going to ask you one final question, but let me say, I think there's a comment. I was just trying to see. Okay, so there's another question for you, Nydia. So Emma says, does Nydia worry about the impact of AI in her working world? So do you worry about AI taking jobs from you?
Emma, you're right on top of the great questions. Yes. I'm not gonna lie. AI has been impacting all industries, right?
Mm-hmm.
All industries. I'm aware of like many jobs have been replaced already through
Mm-hmm.
AI. However, the human nuances are never gonna be, like, AI is never gonna be able to replace that human nuances, right? Sometimes you can hear a voice produced through an AI platform application, and it sounds pretty decent. I'm not gonna deny that. However, the real connection happens when there is a real human voice talking to you. So yeah, sometimes, and actually, in our industry, there are a lot of organizations working at a, in Washington, DC, with doing some lobbies and things like that. In Latin American countries, a lot of great organizations are advocating for the rights to respect the human voice. And I get it. If you need, because budget constraints or whatever, you need to optimize your resources and use AI to do something, fine. But there is always going to be the curated human voices. And that's what I'm choosing to be part of. That
Right.
select, perhaps, a smaller group of voice actors who'd rather be human certified. Actually, there is a thing that is called human certified in the voiceover industry, where you can guarantee that your voice is not going to be cloned for an AI, or you're not lending your voice for an AI application to be cloned and replicate. and yeah, being very 100% human
Right.
with my recordings.
So my understanding is this. So even though we know these things, you're not worried that AI is going to take the jobs away from you. Are you worried about not waking up one day and not being
I mean,
hired?
I'm aware that maybe opportunities have been reduced, but there is always great opportunities for the top quality voiceover jobs.
Okay.
And that's what I'm leaning towards. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. Okay, so your message to women, the women that are watching now, and the women that will watch the replay, what message would you share with a woman who's ready to step into her own influence?
It's don't be afraid. Do it, even if you are not totally ready. It's like never is gonna be, because we tend to, like be behind. Or no, I just need to prep this, and I need to take this master class, and I need to do this setup, and to increase or get better at my branding and my logo. Just start doing your thing, even if you are afraid of doing it. It's never gonna be the perfect time if you just keep waiting. So just do it, even if it's not perfect. It's better done than perfect. That's something that my coach, or one of my coaches, always tells us. It's better done than perfect. So whatever you're thinking about doing it, even if it's not perfect. Don't be afraid to fail. What happened? Nothing. You may fail, and then you stand up and you continue. So do it, even if it's not perfect.
I love that. Do it. Nydia says do it, even if it's not perfect. Done is better than perfect. Well, this has been the G Women Voices of Influence series. My name is Alex Okoroji. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Nydia, and hosting this episode. So we'll see you all around.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Bye-bye.